Imagine standing in a grocery store, reaching for a carton of eggs, a loaf of bread, and some fresh vegetables, only to freeze when you see the price tags. You do the mental math, and somehow, a simple weekly shop now costs what a full month of groceries used to. Sound familiar? You are not imagining it. Food prices have been climbing at a pace that feels almost impossible to keep up with, even for people who have not changed their spending habits at all. But here is the real question worth asking. Why does your grocery bill keep rising when your paycheck stays exactly the same? This is not just your personal struggle at the checkout line. This is a global crisis hitting hundreds of millions of families across every continent. Today, we are going to break down exactly why food has become so expensive, and the answers might genuinely surprise you. For most of the 20th century, food actually became more affordable over time. Thanks to industrialization, synthetic fertilizers, and modern farming techniques, farmers could grow more food using less land and fewer workers. Mass production brought costs down, and grocery stores filled with options that were increasingly accessible to ordinary families. Between the 1950s and the early 2000s, the average household spent a shrinking share of its income on food. That was genuinely remarkable progress. But something has changed. Over the past decade, and especially since 2020, food prices have been climbing in ways that feel different from normal fluctuations. This is not just routine inflation adjusting prices slightly upward. People across the world are struggling to afford basic nutrition, and the trend shows little sign of reversing. So what exactly broke down? To understand that, we need to look closely at the forces now pulling food prices in the wrong direction. Now let's talk about one of the biggest culprits behind rising food prices: climate change and extreme weather events. The relationship between our changing climate and what ends up on your plate is more direct than most people realize. Droughts, floods, and unpredictable growing seasons are devastating crops across the globe at an alarming rate. When rainfall disappears for months, entire harvests simply fail. Take wheat as a powerful example. Major wheat-producing countries like the United States, Australia, and India have all experienced severe droughts in recent years, dramatically cutting their yields. When one major producer struggles, global supply tightens almost immediately. And it is not just droughts. A single catastrophic flood in a key agricultural region can wipe out millions of tons of food overnight. These weather events send immediate shockwaves through global food supply chains, causing prices to spike in grocery stores thousands of miles away from where the disaster actually occurred, leading directly to lower crop yields and higher food prices worldwide. Modern food production runs almost entirely on fossil fuels. Tractors plow fields using diesel. Irrigation systems consume electricity. Pesticides and fertilizers, particularly nitrogen-based ones, are manufactured directly from natural gas. Without energy, the entire food system grinds to a halt. So when oil and gas prices spike, the consequences ripple through every single stage of food production. Farmers pay more to plant and harvest their crops. Food processing plants face higher operating costs. The pandemic did not create these weaknesses in global food logistics. It simply ripped away the curtain and showed just how fragile the entire system truly was. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, most people never thought about how food traveled from farms to store shelves. Then suddenly, everything stopped working. Ports became severely congested, with hundreds of cargo ships waiting weeks to unload. Workers who kept warehouses, trucks, and distribution centers running were either sick or unavailable, creating massive labor shortages across the entire logistics network. Transportation bottlenecks meant that even when food was harvested and ready, it simply could not move efficiently. Perishable goods spoiled in transit, shelves went empty, and the cost of shipping containers skyrocketed by nearly 10 times their normal rates in some cases. Beyond supply chains, geopolitical conflicts have become one of the most powerful forces driving food prices upward. The Russia-Ukraine war is perhaps the clearest example of how political instability can instantly destabilize global food systems. Together, Russia and Ukraine account for roughly 30% of the world's wheat exports, 80% of global sunflower oil supply, and a significant share of fertilizer production. These are not minor commodities. They are foundational ingredients in foods consumed by billions of people daily. When the war erupted in February 2022, export routes were blocked, ports were shut down, and shipments ground to a halt. Countries across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia which depended heavily on these supplies, suddenly found themselves facing severe shortages almost overnight. Bread prices surged, cooking oil disappeared from shelves, and fertilizer shortages threatened the next growing season before it even began. Beyond climate and conflict, there is another powerful force quietly driving up your grocery bill, and it lives in corporate boardrooms. Over the past few decades, the food industry has undergone dramatic consolidation. Today, just a handful of massive corporations control enormous portions of food production, processing, and retail worldwide. Think about that for a moment. From the seeds farmers plant to the shelves where you shop, a small number of companies dominate nearly every step. When competition shrinks, pricing power grows. These corporations face less pressure to keep costs low because consumers have fewer alternatives. What makes this even more concerning is the growing body of evidence suggesting that some of these companies have deliberately used inflation as convenient cover, raising prices beyond what their actual rising costs would justify. In other words, your financial pain at the checkout counter may be partly funding something far more calculated than simple economic pressure. Were these companies genuinely passing on unavoidable expenses to consumers? Or were they strategically exploiting a crisis atmosphere to maximize shareholder returns, while everyday families rationed their meals? Enter greedflation, a term describing profit-driven inflation, where corporations use rising costs as cover to dramatically increase their own margins. The numbers are striking. During the same period, consumers were struggling to afford basic groceries. Companies like Tyson Foods, Kraft Heinz, and PepsiCo reported record-breaking profits. Tyson Foods saw profits jump nearly 70% in a single year. Kroger, one of America's largest grocery chains, reported profit margins nearly double their pre-pandemic averages. These corporations publicly blamed supply chain disruptions and ingredient costs for raising prices. But if costs were truly the driver, why were profits simultaneously hitting all-time highs? This raises a deeply uncomfortable question. Wall Street decisions, investor sentiment, and financial algorithms now have a direct seat at your dinner table, and it operates far from the farm fields. Financial speculation in food commodity markets plays a significant role in price volatility that most consumers never hear about. Commodities like wheat, corn, and soybeans are actively traded on financial exchanges, just like stocks and bonds. Investors, hedge funds, and large financial institutions buy and sell contracts for these goods, often with no intention of ever touching the actual product. They are simply betting on price movements. When large amounts of speculative money flood into food commodity markets, it can artificially push prices upward, disconnected from actual supply and demand realities on the ground. A drought warning, a geopolitical rumor, or even a trending financial report can trigger massive buying, sending prices soaring overnight. Beyond speculation and corporate power, there is another powerful force quietly driving food prices upward, and that is shifting consumer demand driven by population growth and a rapidly expanding global middle class. As hundreds of millions of people in countries like China and India move into higher income brackets, their diets are changing dramatically. They are eating more meat, more dairy, and more processed foods, which were once considered luxuries, but are now everyday expectations for a growing portion of the world's population. Here is the problem. Producing 1 pound of beef requires approximately 8 pounds of grain and thousands of gallons of water. When demand for meat rises globally, it does not just affect butcher counters. It strains grain supplies, depletes water reserves, and drives up land costs. Farmers must dedicate more acres to growing animal feed rather than food crops for direct human consumption, tightening overall food availability and pushing prices higher across every grocery aisle worldwide. The path forward requires collective will, but the tools are within reach. The good news is that solutions exist, and progress is being made on multiple fronts. Governments around the world are investing in sustainable farming practices that reduce dependence on fossil fuels and protect soil health for future generations. Reducing food waste is another critical lever. Roughly 1/3 of all food produced globally is lost or wasted, and cutting that number significantly could ease enormous pressure on supply chains. Diversifying supply chains means no single country or region can hold the world's food supply hostage during a crisis. Policy interventions, including price controls, strategic food reserves, and international cooperation agreements, are helping buffer the most vulnerable populations. Perhaps most exciting is technology. Vertical farming uses 90% less water than traditional agriculture, because food is not just a commodity. It is a fundamental human right, and it is worth fighting for. From that shocked shopper standing in the grocery aisle, to this moment, one truth has become undeniably clear. Rising food prices are not the result of one bad season or one bad year. They are the product of a deeply interconnected web of climate disruption, energy dependency, supply chain fragility, geopolitical conflict, corporate consolidation, financial speculation, and surging global demand. No single thread explains it all, but together, they paint a picture we cannot afford to ignore. The food on your plate is the final destination of a journey shaped by forces spanning the entire globe. What can you do? Stay informed, ask hard questions, support local and sustainable food producers whenever possible. Demand transparency from corporations reporting record profits while families struggle.